Admiral Korath could not sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Gorthik falling. He saw the small humans standing victorious over the greatest warrior in the galaxy. It was impossible. It should not have happened. And yet it had. He paced his command room aboard the Eternal Flame, planning his revenge. The Council had told him to stand down. They had told him to wait for diplomatic solutions. He did not care. Humanity had to be destroyed. Prepare the fleet, he ordered his second-in-command. Every ship we have, we're going to Earth. Sir, the Council has forbidden. I don't care what the Council has forbidden. Korath's eyes blazed with fury. Those creatures have humiliated us enough. When Earth is ash, the Council will thank me. The Voltari fleet assembled in secret. 2,000 warships, each one capable of destroying a city. Their weapons were the most advanced in the galaxy. Their shields could withstand anything humanity could throw at them, or so they believed. On Earth, a young woman named Hana worked in a laboratory deep underground. She had not seen sunlight in 3 months. Her hair was messy, her clothes were stained with grease and chemicals, and she had forgotten what real food tasted like, but she was smiling. It works, she whispered to herself. It actually works. On the table before her sat a small device, no bigger than a coffee cup. It glowed with a soft blue light. This device was humanity's secret weapon. Hana had spent the past years studying captured alien technology. Pieces of Voltari engines, fragments of Arani shields, components from ships that had crashed or been abandoned. She had taken them apart, understood them, and then done something no one expected. She had improved them. The device on her table was a new kind of shield generator. Alien shields worked by creating a barrier of energy around a ship. They were strong but slow to adapt. If you hit them hard enough in the same spot, they would eventually break. Hana's shield was different. It learned. Every time it was hit, it analyzed the attack and became stronger against that type of weapon. Hit it with lasers, it became immune to lasers. Hit it with missiles, it became immune to missiles. And that was just the beginning. She pressed a button on her communicator. Minho, I need you to see this. Minho arrived an hour later with Yuna and Taiho. They looked tired. Running humanity's resistance was exhausting work. But when Hana showed them the device, their exhaustion vanished. You're telling me this shield can adapt to any weapon? Yuna asked. Not just adapt. Counter. Hana pulled up data on a screen. When the shield blocks an attack, it absorbs the energy. That energy can be redirected. We can shoot their own weapons back at them. Taiho laughed in disbelief. That's impossible. 3 months ago, flying through the Corvin field was impossible. Hana reminded him. Beating Gorthik was impossible. We're humans. Impossible is what we do. Minho studied the device carefully. How fast can we produce these? With our current factories, we can equip 50 ships within 2 weeks. But if we convert all manufacturing to this purpose, we could do 500 in a month. Do it, Minho ordered. Convert everything. I have a feeling we're going to need those shields soon. He was right. Voltari scouts had already been spotted at the edge of human space. Admiral Korath's fleet was coming. For the next 3 weeks, every factory on Earth worked day and night. Engineers and workers slept in shifts, never stopping. The shield generators were installed on every ship in the human fleet, but Hana did not stop there. The shields were just the start, she told her team. We're going to rebuild everything. She developed new weapons based on stolen alien designs. Plasma cannons that fired faster than anything the galaxy had seen. Missiles that could change direction mid-flight. Targeting systems so accurate they could hit a specific window on a moving ship that the human fleet transformed. Ships that had once been considered weak and primitive became something new. Something dangerous. When Admiral Korath's fleet entered human space, they expected an easy victory. 2,000 Veltari warships against a few hundred human vessels. The numbers were overwhelmingly in their favor. Captain Minji, now commanding her own ship, led the human defense fleet. She looked at the Veltari Armada on her view screen and felt no fear. "All ships," she announced, "activate Hana shields." Every human ship lit up with a blue glow. The new shields hummed with energy. "This is Admiral Korath of the Veltari Empire," a voice crackled over the communication channel. "Surrender now, and we will make your deaths quick." Minji smiled. "This is Captain Minji of Earth's defense fleet. Come and get us." The battle began. Veltari ships opened fire with everything they had. Thousands of laser beams and plasma bolts streaked across space toward the human fleet. The attack should have destroyed every human ship instantly. Instead, the blue shields absorbed every shot. And then they fired back. The absorbed energy converted into massive counterattacks that tore through Veltari shields like paper. Ships that had seemed invincible exploded one after another. Admiral Korath screamed orders from his command chair. "Change weapon frequencies. Use different attack patterns." His fleet tried. They switched to missiles. The human shields adapted. They tried focused energy beams. The shields adapted faster. Everything they threw at the humans came back at them twice as strong. "How is this possible?" Korath demanded. "Their technology was primitive." "Sir," his second-in-command said quietly, "I don't think it is anymore." The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, over half of the Veltari fleet was destroyed or disabled. The rest retreated at maximum speed. They had never run from a battle before. They had never needed to. Minji watched them flee. She wanted to chase them, to finish them off, but her orders were clear. Defend only. Do not pursue. Send a message to the Galactic Council, she said to her communications officer. Tell them what happened here today. The message reached the council 3 days later. The High Speaker watched recordings of the battle with growing horror. Veltari ships, the most powerful in the galaxy, being destroyed by humans. Weapons that should have been devastating being turned back against their users. What are these shields? He asked his advisors. None of them had an answer. On Earth, Hana was already working on the next generation of technology. The victory was important, but she knew the Veltari would learn from their defeat. They would develop countermeasures. She needed to stay ahead. Minho visited her laboratory that evening. She was surrounded by holographic displays showing new designs. You saved us, he told her. Hana shook her head. The pilots saved us. The engineers who built the ship saved us. I just gave them better tools. Humble words from the woman who changed the galaxy. Hana looked at him with tired eyes. The galaxy hasn't changed yet. The council still sees us as primitives. They'll come up with new excuses, new reasons to look down on us. Perhaps. But now they fear us. Fear is the first step toward respect, is it? Hana asked. Or is fear just the first step toward more violence? Minho did not answer. He knew she was right. The Veltari would want revenge. Other species might join them. The battle they had won was just one fight in a much larger war, but humanity was no longer helpless. They had proven they could fight. They had proven they could innovate. They had proven that being primitive meant nothing when you refused to give up throughout the galaxy. Species that had laughed at humanity began to reconsider. Some sent secret messages to Earth, offering friendship. Others started their own research programs, trying to understand how humans had advanced so quickly. The balance of power in the galaxy was shifting. The old order was cracking. And at the center of it all, a species that had been dismissed as worthless was proving everyone wrong. Hana returned to her work. There was still so much to do. The shields could be improved. The weapons could be stronger. The ships could be faster. Humanity would never stop improving. That was their greatest advantage. While other species rested on their achievements, humans kept pushing forward. The galaxy would learn this lesson, one way or another. 1 year had passed since the Veltari fleet was defeated. The galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. Admiral Korath was gone. After his failure, the Veltari government had stripped him of his rank and exiled him to a distant moon. His name was no longer spoken. His legacy was shamed out. The Galactic Council met in emergency session after emergency session. They argued about what to do with the human problem. Some wanted to unite all species against Earth. Others warned that such a war would destroy the galaxy. A few, quietly, suggested making peace. Meanwhile, humanity kept growing stronger. Hana's technology spread across the human fleet. Every month brought new improvements. Ships that could travel faster. Shields that could block anything. Weapons that terrified even the most aggressive species. Human colonies expanded. 12 worlds became 20, then 30, then 50. Each colony was defended by ships that could match any fleet in the galaxy. Other species noticed. The Orani Collective, known for backing winners, sent a secret ambassador to Earth. The Telvanni Republic, a minor power that had always been bullied by larger species, asked for an alliance. Even some Veltari generals, tired of their empire's failures, reached out in secret. Minho received all these messages. He listened to all these offers, but he knew they were not enough. Humanity needed something more than secret allies and private deals. They needed recognition. The Council will never give us what we want on their own, Yuna told him one evening. They're too proud, too afraid of looking weak. Then we'll have to convince them, Minho replied. How? We've beaten their blockade. We've defeated their champion. We've destroyed their fleet. What else can we do? Minho smiled. It was the same smile he had worn in the council chamber 1 year ago, when they had laughed at him. We'll give them no choice. 2 weeks later, the Galactic Council received a message from Earth. It was short and simple. Ambassador Minho requests an audience with the Council. He will arrive in 3 days. He suggests you accept his request. The High Speaker was furious. He suggests? Who does this human think he is? Perhaps we should hear what he has to say, said a delegate from the Telvanni Republic. They have proven themselves worthy of attention. Worthy? The speaker's 3 eyes blinked rapidly. They are primitives who got lucky. Lucky? Admiral Karath's replacement, a young Veltari named Sereth, spoke up. They destroyed half our fleet. That is not luck. That is power. The debate continued for hours. In the end, they agreed to meet with Minho. Not because they wanted to, because they were afraid of what might happen if they refused. Minho arrived exactly on time, 3 days later. But he did not come alone. Through the crystal windows of the council chamber, delegates could see the human fleet. 500 ships, each one glowing with blue shields. They hung in space like stars, beautiful and terrifying. Minho walked into the chamber with Yuna at his side. This time, he was not wearing a simple black suit. He wore the uniform of Earth's United Government, decorated with symbols of every nation that had come together to face the galaxy. The hall was silent. No one laughed. No one whispered jokes about primitive species. Ambassador Minho, the High Speaker said, his voice carefully neutral. You requested this audience. Speak. Minho looked around the hall. He saw fear in the eyes of delegates who had once mocked him. He saw respect from those who had underestimated humanity. He saw hope from species who had been oppressed for centuries. 1 year ago, he began. I stood in this hall and asked for equality. You laughed at me. You called us primitive. You voted, every single one of you, to deny us membership." He paused. "I told you that you would reconsider. Some of you laughed at that too." The hall remained silent. "Since then, we have broken your blockade. We have defeated your greatest warrior. We have destroyed the fleet that was sent to kill us. We have developed technology that surpasses anything you possess." He took a step forward. "We did not do these things because we wanted war. We did them because you gave us no choice. You treated us as lesser beings. You tried to starve our colonies. You tried to break our spirit. Another step. You failed." Minho reached the center of the hall, the same spot where he had stood 1 year ago. "I am not here to ask for membership again. I am here to tell you that the old order is over. The galaxy has changed, and it will never go back to what it was." The High Speaker found his voice. "What do you want, human?" Minho smiled. "I want peace. Real peace, not the kind where the strong bully the weak. I want a galaxy where every species, whether they've existed for 1,000,000 years or discovered space travel yesterday, is treated with dignity. And if we refuse, then we will create that galaxy without you." Minho gestured toward the window, toward the fleet waiting outside. "Those ships are not a threat. They are a promise. A promise that humanity will never again allow itself or any other species to be oppressed." Sereth, the young Voltari admiral, stood up. "The Voltari Empire is tired of war. We have lost too much already. I support the humans' proposal." Other delegates began to murmur. Then the Telvanni representative stood. "The Telvanni Republic supports humanity." One by one, more species rose to their feet. The Orani, the Kelvin Federation, the Marsh Collective. Species that had been bullied and ignored for centuries saw their chance. The High Speaker looked around desperately. His power was crumbling before his eyes. This is unprecedented," he stammered. "Change often is," Minho said. "The vote that followed was not unanimous. Some species still clung to the old ways, but the majority was clear. Humanity was granted full membership in the Galactic Council. More than that, the Council's charter was rewritten. New rules were established. No species could be declared primitive based on their technology or age. Every member had equal voice. When it was over, the High Speaker approached Minho. His silver skin looked pale. His 3 eyes were tired. "You have won," he said quietly. "I hope you are satisfied." Minho shook his head. "This isn't about winning or losing. It's about building something better." The speaker studied him for a long moment. "Perhaps I underestimated your kind. Many have. Many will again." Minho extended his hand in the human gesture of friendship. "But perhaps next time we can learn from each other instead of fighting." The speaker hesitated. Then, slowly, he reached out and took Minho's hand. That night, celebrations erupted across human space. On Earth, people danced in the streets. On the colonies, families gathered to watch the news. Aboard the fleet ships, crews cheered and embraced Dot in a quiet room on the council station. Minho sat with Yuna, Hana, Taiho, and Minji. They were the core of humanity's victory. They were tired beyond words. "We did it," Yuna said softly. "We actually did it." Taiho nodded. "But this is just the beginning. The galaxy still has problems. Wars to stop. Injustice to fight. We've changed things, but the work isn't over." Hannah smiled. "Good. I was worried I'd have to find a new hobby." Minji laughed. "There's always something to fix, something to improve. That's what humans do." Minho looked at his friends, his partners, his family, and everything but blood. They had started with nothing but determination. They had faced an entire galaxy that wanted them to fail. And they had won, but Taiho was right. This was only the beginning. Out in the galaxy, the changes they had started were spreading. Oppressed species were standing up for themselves. Old empires were learning that power without justice was hollow. New alliances were forming, based not on fear but on respect. Humanity had not just won a place at the table. They had changed what the table meant. Minho stood and walked to the window. Outside, the stars stretched to infinity. Each one was a sun with planets. Each planet might have life. Each life was precious. They called us primitive, he said quietly. They thought that was an insult. But they were wrong. Being primitive means being close to our roots. Close to the struggle. Close to the fire that drives us forward. He turned back to face his friends. Let them remember what primitives can do. The others raised their glasses in a toast. To Earth, to humanity, to the future they would build together. The galaxy would never forget the day the Galactic Council declared humanity inferior. Not because of the insult, but because of what came after. Regret, recognition, respect, and finally, hope. 6 months passed after the Council's decision. The Voltari Empire decided that humiliation was not enough. They wanted humanity to suffer. Admiral Korath sat in his command chair aboard the Eternal Flame, the largest warship in the Voltari fleet. Through the view screen, he could see Earth's sun shining in the distance. Between that sun and the rest of the galaxy, he had positioned 300 Voltari warships. Nothing could get in or out without his permission. Sir, his second-in-command reported, the blockade is complete. Human trade ships are turning back. Their colonies are sending distress signals. Korath smiled, showing his sharp teeth. Excellent. How long until their supplies run out? Our calculations suggest 2 months for their outer colonies. 3 months for Earth itself. Perfect. Korath leaned back in his chair. They wanted to be treated as equals. Now they will beg for mercy. The blockade was brutal but effective. Human ships could not match Voltari technology. Their weapons were too weak. Their shields were too thin. Every ship that tried to break through was captured or destroyed. On Earth, panic began to spread. Food shipments from the colonies stopped arriving. Medical supplies ran low. People started to lose hope. But not everyone died in a hidden base on the dark side of Earth's moon. A woman named Yuna studied holographic maps of the blockade. She had not slept in 3 days. Coffee cups surrounded her workstation. Her eyes were red but focused. There has to be a way through, she muttered. There isn't, said a voice behind her. She turned to see Captain Taiho enter the room. He was a tall man with broad shoulders and a scar across his left cheek. He commanded the fastest ship in Earth's small fleet. The Voltari ships are positioned perfectly, Taiho continued. Their sensors cover every possible approach. We cannot fight them and we cannot sneak past them. Yuna shook her head. I refuse to accept that. It's not about accepting. It's about facts. Yuna pointed at the map. Look at their formation. It's designed for normal space travel. They expect us to come at them in straight lines, because that's how everyone travels in this galaxy. Taiho frowned. That is how everyone travels. Faster than light engines requires stable space. You cannot make sudden turns or navigate through obstacles. We cannot, Yuna agreed. But what if we didn't use faster than light? Then it would take years to reach anywhere. Not if we use a different route. Yuna zoomed in on a section of space near the blockade. It was filled with red warning markers. The core of an asteroid field. Taiho's face went pale. That's suicide. The Coven field was famous throughout the galaxy. It contained millions of asteroids, some as small as cars, others as large as moons. They moved in unpredictable patterns. Ships that entered rarely came out. No one flies through the Coven field, Taiho said. Not even the Voltari. Exactly. Yuna smiled. They won't expect it because they think it's impossible. But humans have been flying through dangerous conditions for centuries. Our pilots trained in atmosphere. We fly through storms, through mountains, through canyons. We're used to obstacles. Asteroids are different from mountains, are they? Yuna pulled up data on her screen. I've studied the field for the past week. The asteroids follow patterns. Chaotic patterns, yes, but patterns. I've written a navigation program that can predict their movements up to 30 seconds in advance. Taiho stared at her. 30 seconds? It's enough. If the pilot is good enough. There was silence in the room. Both of them knew what Yuna was asking. I'll do it, Taiho said finally. Get me the program and a volunteer crew. I'm coming too, Yuna said. Absolutely not. You're too valuable. I wrote the program. I'm the only one who can adjust it in real time if something goes wrong. You need me on that ship. Taiho wanted to argue, but he knew she was right. Fine, but if we die, I'm blaming you. 2 days later, a small fleet of 20 human ships gathered in secret. They were not warships. They were cargo vessels, fast and agile, loaded with supplies for the starving colonies. Their pilots were the best humanity had to offer. Taiho stood before them in the briefing room. I won't lie to you, he said. What we're about to do has never been done before. We're going to fly through the Coven field at high speed, come out behind the blockade, and deliver our cargo to the colonies. One pilot raised her hand. Her name was Minji. She was young but fearless. What are our chances? She asked. Honestly? I don't know. Maybe 50%. Maybe less. Good enough for me, Minji said. The other pilots nodded in agreement that the fleet launched at midnight. They traveled slowly at first, approaching the edge of the asteroid field like swimmers approaching rough waters. Yuna sat at her console aboard Taiho's ship, watching her program calculate trajectories. Numbers and vectors filled her screen. Her fingers flew over the controls. Entering the field in 30 seconds, Taiho announced. All ships, follow my lead. Trust the program. Trust your instincts. The asteroids appeared suddenly, like a wall of stone rushing toward them. Taiho pulled the ship hard to the right. An asteroid the size of a building shot past them, close enough to touch. Left. Yuna shouted. Taiho turned left. Another asteroid missed them by meters. Behind them. The fleet scattered. Each ship danced through the chaos, following paths that changed every second. Pilots screamed commands. Engines roared. 3 ships didn't make it through the first minute. Their signals vanished from the screen. Keep going, Taiho commanded. Don't look back. The journey through the field took 4 hours. 4 hours of constant terror. 4 hours of impossible maneuvers. Yuna's program worked perfectly, but the pilots had to execute every move with exact timing. 2 more ships were lost in the second hour. One clipped an asteroid and spun into another. One simply disappeared, but 15 ships made it through. They emerged on the other side of the field, behind the Voltari blockade. The stars looked different from this angle. Earth's sun was just another point of light. We did it, Yuna whispered. Taiho allowed himself a small smile. Not yet. We still need to deliver the cargo. The 15 ships split up, each heading to a different colony. They traveled fast and quiet, avoiding Voltari patrols. One by one, they reached their destinations. When the first supply ship landed on colony world New Sol, the people there cried with joy. They had been days away from running out of food. Now, they had enough to last months. Admiral Korath learned about the supply runs 3 days later. He was furious. How? He demanded. How did they get through? His officers had no answer. They checked their sensors. They reviewed their patrol routes. Everything had been perfect. The humans should not have been able to break through, but they had. Korath ordered his fleet to find the gap in their defenses. They searched for weeks. They found nothing. Meanwhile, human ships continued to slip through the Corvin field. More pilots learned the route. Better programs were written. What started as a desperate gamble became a reliable supply line. The blockade was still there, but it was useless. On Earth, Minho watched the reports come in. Each successful supply run was a small victory. Each one proved that humanity could adapt and overcome. They underestimated us, Yuna told him after returning from her 10th run through the field. They always do, Minho replied. That's their weakness. News of the failed blockade spread through the galaxy. Other species began to whisper. The humans had done something no one thought possible. They had found a way where there was no way. The Galactic Council took notice. Admiral Korath received a message from the High Speaker, demanding an explanation. He had no explanation to give. In his command chair aboard the Eternal Flame, Korath stared at the distant stars. Somewhere out there, human ships were flying through fields of death as easily as birds flying through trees. For the first time, he felt something he had never felt before when thinking about humans. He felt afraid. The news of the broken blockade spread across the galaxy like fire. Every species talked about it. The primitive humans had made fools of the mighty Veltari Empire. Some laughed at the Veltari. Others worried about what this meant. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. This time, the Great Hall was full of tension instead of mockery. Admiral Korath stood before the assembly. His blue skin looked pale. His glowing eyes had lost some of their fire. The humans used tactics we did not expect, he explained. They flew through the Corvin field. No species has ever done this. Because no species is foolish enough to try, said a delegate from the Urani Collective. The Urani were small beings with large black eyes and gray skin. They were known for their intelligence and their cruelty. Foolish or brilliant? Another delegate asked. They succeeded. Arguments erupted throughout the hall. Some wanted to increase pressure on humanity. Others suggested leaving them alone. A few quietly wondered if the council had made a mistake. The High Speaker raised his hand for silence. We must restore order. We must prove that the Galactic Council cannot be defied by primitives. How? Admiral Korath asked. We cannot catch their ships. They avoid our patrols. They slip through defenses like water through fingers. Then we challenge them in a way they cannot avoid. The High Speaker turned to a section of the hall that had been quiet until now. The arena? A murmur ran through the assembly. The arena was an ancient tradition, used to settle disputes between species without war. Champions from each side would fight in single combat. The winner earned honor for their entire species. The humans fancy themselves brave, the High Speaker continued. Let them prove it. If their champion defeats ours, we will reconsider their status. If not, they will accept permanent classification as a primitive species. Admiral Korath nodded slowly. Who would be our champion? A massive figure rose from the back of the hall. He stood 3 meters tall, covered in armor made from the bones of his enemies. His name was Gorthik, and he was the greatest warrior the galaxy had ever seen. Gorthik had fought in the arena over 200 times. He had never lost. He had killed champions from every major species. His strength was legendary. He could tear apart metal with his bare hands. His speed was impossible for something so large. I will fight their champion, Gorthik said. His voice was deep like thunder. I will show the galaxy what happens to those who challenge the council. The hall erupted in cheers. This was perfect. No human could possibly defeat Gorthik. Their embarrassment would be complete. The challenge was sent to Earth that same day. Minho received the message in his office. He read it twice before calling a meeting with his advisors. "They want to fight," he said simply. Hannah, the defense minister, crossed her arms. "It's a trap. This Gorthic is undefeated. They want us to lose publicly. If we refuse, we look weak," Una pointed out. "If we accept and lose, we look even weaker." "Then we don't lose," said a new voice. Everyone turned to see a man enter the room. He was not tall, not particularly muscular. He looked ordinary in every way. His name was Taiho, and he was no longer just a ship captain. After breaking the blockade, Taiho had become famous. But few people knew about his other skills. Before joining the space fleet, he'd have been a soldier. Before that, a martial artist. He had trained in combat since he was a child. "You want to fight Gorthic?" Hannah asked. "He's 3 meters tall. He's killed hundreds of warriors. Size doesn't matter as much as everyone thinks," Taiho replied. "I've studied his fights. He's strong and fast, yes. But he's also predictable. He relies on his strength because no one has ever challenged him properly." Minho looked at Taiho carefully. "You're confident you can win?" "No," Taiho admitted. "But I'm confident I can fight. And sometimes that's enough." 1 week later, the arena was packed with spectators from across the galaxy. The fighting ground was a circle of sand, 50 meters wide, surrounded by seats that rose up like a mountain. Millions watched through screens. Billions more followed the broadcast on their home worlds. Gorthic entered first. The crowd roared. He raised his arms, showing off muscles that could crush stone. His armor gleamed under the lights. He looked like a god of war. Then Taiho entered. The crowd went silent. Then they started laughing. The human was so small compared to Gorthic. He wore simple clothes, no armor. He carried no weapons because the rules said both fighters must be unarmed. He looked like a child standing next to a giant. "This is their champion?" Gorthic laughed. "This is what they sent to face me?" Taiho said nothing. He walked to the center of the arena and waited. The high speaker's voice echoed through the space. "The rules are simple. Fight until one cannot continue. No weapons. No outside help. Begin." Gorthic charged. The ground shook with each step. He swung his massive fist at Taiho's head, a blow that could smash through walls. Taiho was not there. He had moved to the side, just slightly, letting Gorthic's fist pass within centimeters of his face. As the giant's arm went by, Taiho struck. His fist hit a pressure point on Gorthic's elbow. Gorthic's arm went numb. He tried to swing again, but his right arm would not respond. The crowd went quiet. Gorthic roared and swung with his left arm. Taiho ducked under it and struck again, this time hitting the back of Gorthic's knee. The giant stumbled. "Stand still," Gorthic commanded. He lunged forward, trying to grab Taiho with both hands. Taiho jumped. Not away from Gorthic, but toward him. He landed on the giant's chest, pushed off, and kicked him in the throat. Gorthic staggered backward, gasping for air. His eyes were wide with shock. No one had ever hurt him like this. No one had ever moved so fast. "You're confused," Taiho said calmly. "You've never fought someone who doesn't fight the way you expect." Gorthic recovered and attacked again. This time he was more careful, watching for Taiho's movements. But Taiho changed his pattern. He moved differently each time, striking from angles that seemed impossible. 20 seconds passed. Gorthic was bleeding from several wounds. His movements were getting slower. 30 seconds. Taiho hit a nerve cluster in Gorthic's shoulder. The giant's left arm stopped working. 35 seconds. Taiho swept Gorthic's legs from under him. The massive warrior crashed to the ground like a falling tree. 40 seconds. Taiho stood over his fallen opponent, one foot on Gorthic's chest. The arena was completely silent. "I yield," Gorthik whispered. His voice was broken. His body would not obey him anymore. Taiho stepped back and bowed respectfully. "You fought with honor." The silence continued for a long moment. Then, slowly, the crowd began to react. Some cheered. Others sat in stunned disbelief. The most feared warrior in the galaxy had been defeated in less than a minute. The High Speaker's voice was shaky when he spoke. The human is victorious." Taiho looked up at the crowd. He saw fear in their eyes. Good. That was what humanity needed right now. They needed the galaxy to understand that size and strength were not everything. Minho watched from a special viewing area. Beside him, Yuna was crying with joy. Hannah was pumping her fist in triumph. "They'll reconsider now," Yuna said. "They have to." Minho shook his head slowly. "Reconsidering is not enough. We need them to respect us. After that fight, they must." "Some will," Minho agreed. "Others will be afraid, and fear makes people do stupid things. This is not over. This is just the beginning." He was right. Throughout the galaxy, the reaction to Taiho's victory was mixed. Some species began to see humans differently. They started to wonder what else these strange creatures could do. But others, especially the Veltari, became more determined to crush humanity. They could not allow this humiliation to stand. Admiral Korath, watching from his ship, made a decision. If the Council would not destroy the humans, he would do it himself. The next phase of the conflict was about to begin, and it would be far more dangerous than anything that came before. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was bigger than any building on Earth. Its walls stretched so high that clouds formed near the ceiling. Lights from 1,000 different stars shone through crystal windows. Representatives from 300 alien species sat in floating chairs arranged in a massive circle. In the center of this circle stood one human. His name was Minho. He was 42 years old, not very tall, and wearing a simple black suit. He looked very small compared to the aliens around him. Some of them were giants with 4 arms. Others had scales that shimmered like diamonds. A few were made of pure energy that flickered like flames. Minho did not look scared. He stood straight with his hands behind his back. The High Speaker floated down from the highest seat. He was a Delveri, a species known for their silver skin and 3 eyes. Each eye blinked at different times, which many humans found unsettling. The High Speaker's name was impossible for human tongues to pronounce, so the translation device simply called him Speaker. "Human representative," the Speaker said. His voice echoed through the hall. "You have come to request full membership in the Galactic Council. Is this correct?" "Yes," Minho said. His voice was calm and clear. "Earth wishes to join as an equal member." Laughter erupted from several sections of the hall. The sound was strange because each species laughed differently. Some made clicking noises. Others produced sounds like breaking glass. A few simply vibrated in a way that felt like mockery. Minho did not react. He waited for the laughter to stop. The Speaker raised one of his 4 hands. The hall became quiet. "Human," the Speaker said. "Your species discovered faster than light travel only 50 of your years ago. You have colonized merely 12 planets. Your technology is primitive. Your lifespans are short. Your bodies are fragile." Minho nodded. "All of this is true. Then you understand why your request cannot be granted." "I do not understand," Minho replied. "I would like you to explain." More laughter filled the hall. This time, it was louder and lasted longer. A Veltari delegate stood up. The Veltari were tall beings with blue skin and eyes that glowed like hot coals. They controlled over 2,000 star systems and considered themselves the most powerful species in the galaxy. "Let me explain, little human," the Veltari said. His name was translated as Admiral Korath. He smiled, showing teeth that were sharp like needles. The Galactic Council exists for advanced civilizations. Species that have proven their worth. Species that have contributed to galactic peace and progress. And what has humanity contributed? Another delegate called out. Nothing, shouted several voices at once. Admiral Korath laughed. Exactly. Your species fights among itself. You pollute your own worlds. You cannot even agree on simple matters. You are children playing with dangerous toys. Minho looked at the Admiral. His face showed no emotion. Are you finished? Minho asked. The hall went silent. No one spoke to a Veltari Admiral like that. Admiral Korath's eyes burned brighter. You dare? I asked a simple question, Minho interrupted. I wish to know if you are finished speaking, so I may respond. The High Speaker intervened before violence could erupt. The Admiral has made his point. Human, you may speak. Minho looked around the hall slowly. He made eye contact with as many delegates as he could. You call us primitive, he began. This is true by your standards. 50 years ago, we thought we were alone in the universe. We were wrong. When we discovered the galaxy was full of life, we were not afraid. We were excited. He paused. You call us fragile. This is also true. Our bodies break easily. We get sick. We die young compared to many of you. But because we know we will die, we work harder. We dream bigger. We refuse to waste time. Some delegates shifted in their seats. A few stopped smiling. You say we fight among ourselves. Yes, we do. We have fought terrible wars. Millions of our own people have died because of our conflicts. But we learned from every war. We became stronger. We found ways to work together despite our differences. Minho took a step forward. You have judged us based on 50 years. 50 years is nothing to species that live for thousands. But look at what we accomplished in those 50 years. We went from 1 planet to 12. We built ships that amaze your own engineers. We learned your languages, your customs, your histories. Enough, Admiral Korath said. This changes nothing. The High Speaker nodded. We will now vote. All those in favor of granting humanity full membership in the Galactic Council indicate now. Minho looked around the hall. Not a single light appeared. Not one species voted in favor. All those opposed? 300 lights filled the hall. Every single delegate voted against humanity. The High Speaker looked at Minho with something that might have been pity. The decision is unanimous. Humanity is classified as a primitive species, grade 7. You may observe council proceedings, but may not participate. You may trade with willing partners, but receive no council protections. This decision is final. Minho nodded slowly. He did not look surprised or upset. I understand, he said. You may leave now, the High Speaker said. Minho turned to go. He walked 3 steps toward the exit. Then he stopped. He turned back to face the council. I have one more thing to say. Admiral Korath laughed. What could you possibly have to say? Minho smiled. It was a small smile, but it made several delegates feel uneasy. You will reconsider, Minho said simply. The laughter that followed was loud and long. Delegates from every species joined in. The very idea that these primitive humans could change the council's mind was the funniest thing they had heard in centuries. Done. My NHO walked out of the great hall. The laughter followed him through the corridors. He did not mind. He had expected this. Outside, a young woman was waiting for him. Her name was Yuna. She was his assistant and one of the brightest minds on Earth. How did it go? She asked. Exactly as we predicted, Minho said. Yuna frowned. They rejected us? Unanimously. So what happens now? Minho looked up at the alien sky. 3 moons hung above the horizon. Ships from 100 different worlds flew overhead. "Now," he said, "we show them who we really are." Back in the Great Hall, the delegates were still celebrating their decision. They did not notice that Minho had left behind a small recording device. They did not know that Earth had heard every word, every laugh, every insult. On Earth, in a secret room deep underground, military leaders watched the recording. Scientists watched. Engineers watched. Ordinary citizens watched. No one laughed. A woman named Hannah stood up. She was the head of Earth's defense program. Her eyes were cold and focused. "They want primitive?" she said. "Let's show them what primitive can do." The room erupted in agreement. For the first time in human history, every nation on Earth united behind a single goal. The galaxy had made a mistake. They would soon learn just how big that mistake was.